Today, in today's world, all of us are under so much stress. It is really incredible. And this is, forget about COVID-19, right? We were under stress even before, and now with COVID, it's really becoming very, very difficult. And regardless if you are, parent, if you have no children, if you're single, if you're married, if you have a partner, if you have job, if you don't have job, I guarantee you have more stress than you want to. And the thing is, what do you do with this stress? How do you actually use it in your advantage rather than stress taking you down? So about 15 years ago or so, my health was really in poor shape. My stomach ache was really hurting so badly. I did so many tests and they, thank God, couldn't find anything. Then I had to go to the heart doctor a number of times. Everything turned out okay. I had a pain, really terrible pain in my left foot. And one of the key major doctors in New York, very famous one, said, I need to do a surgery. Good thing I didn't do it. And I'll tell you why. After all of this was happening, I made some changes in my life, and unconsciously, I didn't do this purposely, but here's what happened. I went to my doctor and he looked at me. He, did a blood test, of course, put me on a scale and everything. He said, well, I really don't understand what are you doing, but everything seems to be great now, back to normal. You lost so much weight. Your lungs sound so great. Your heart is in a good shape. It looks like your foot is not hurting anymore. What are you doing? What are you doing differently that you're not telling me? And I honestly didn't know. I had no answer until I got home. And I started thinking. The only thing that I was doing differently was that I was involved, started learning science of positive psychology with Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar from Harvard. And I started learning and applying some of the tools that I learned. And then I was working on helping other people do the same when I realized that's working for me. So I worked on my book. I published a book. I actually brought the book to my doctor at that time. And that's really all it was. I realized that, by changing my psychology, if you will, because this was all changing my habits and routines and introducing new tools, I even changed my physiology. It was really, really amazing. So because of that, I realized I really need to help other people. If you don't know me, hi, my name is Braco Pobrić, and I am positive psychology master trainer and former globally certified Dale Carnegie trainer and business coach. All of this, everything that I do is truly for my personal satisfaction. This is my true calling, my passion. I still have a full-time job as an executive in a large financial firm, but this is my true calling. This is, I believe, why I am here, right? I figured something out and I know I can help other people do the same. So my guess is you would like to coach other people and help other people, but you just, you don't have a perfect life either, right? You might be struggling with, happiness. You might be struggling with a lot of stress. You might be wanting to become more resilient and improve your relationships and so on. And guess what? You are unique, my friend. There is no one on this earth like you. No one. And this is why you already have most what you need to become a very successful coach. So what you need to do now is, if you are truly, truly want to help people, what you really need to do now is just learn the tools, apply it as a coach, practice it, and then teach it. So whatever you want to do with these tools, that either you start in your own practice or you're using the tools in your existing practice and or business, or you want to use these tools in your organization, in your small business and so on, you will be able to do that. So today, I will teach you 8 pillars and many tools of positive psychology that you can apply immediately. As soon as you learn them here, you can go ahead and practice it in your own life. So we are going to start with something what we call positive psychology model, one of the positive psychology model. One of the model is what we call PERMA. And in a moment, I'm going to explain that and also give you the tools so you can use and apply PERMA in your own life. So here's what we're going to do. So we said we will talk about PERMA first. So let's look at, so it's P-E-R-M-A. PERMA. P stands for positive emotions. E stands for engagement or flow. R stands for relationships. M stands for meaning or purpose. And A stands for achievement. Now, for many of you, this model doesn't really mean anything, right? Okay, that's the positive psychology model, but what do you do with this? So let me explain, and let's get into some tools. So P, we said, we know that based on this model, if you apply it, based on a lot of research, you will improve your happiness and overall well-being. As you do that, it will help you to become successful in any areas of your life that is, kind of needs a little more success. And I'm not talking only about business and money, but I'm talking about true life success, right? Everything. So P, we said, stands for positive emotions. So here's the question. So what are the positive emotions, right? Things that brings us joy, that makes us feel good, that gives us that positivity. So my question to you is, what do you do today in your life that brings you that positive emotions, that positive vibes? What do you do today that brings you this? Maybe reading the book brings you positive emotions. Maybe it's gardening. Maybe it's walking, in the park. Maybe it's having a lunch with your friends. Whatever that is, I need you to think about this. What brings you positive emotions? Then write it down, as many things as you can think of that brings you positive emotions. Then I want you to look at that list and think about what can you do to do more of it. What can you do in your life so that you can bring even more positive emotions, right? For some of us, maybe positive emotions is what we actually have a lot. For others, we don't have enough. But regardless, I'd like you to think about, look at the list that you created for positive emotions and think about how can you increase that positive emotions? How can you have more of these moments? Again, if it's gardening, being with your friends, walking in a park, running, being on a treadmill, spending time with your partner, whatever that is, let's have more of it. That's the first thing. When we say E stands for engagement or flow, that was introduced by Dr. Mihail Csikszentmihalyi. Now, what is engagement? The easiest way to explain is if you think about when you were a kid and you played your maybe favorite sport, maybe it was a soccer, that was for me, football, basketball, maybe you played with your favorite toy, with the Barbie, whatever it was, right? But you were in the present moment. You were truly in the flow. When you played that game, you didn't think about who is going to win. You didn't think about the end result when you were in the moment. You were thinking about that moment only, right? That is that flow that we have, engagement or flow. And this is where we are truly, truly in the moment. Now, think about what do you do today that you are in the flow? What do you do today that you are truly engaged? I know for myself, it starts from first thing in the morning, and that is my exercise, my yoga, meditation, right? I know I'm truly in the flow, I'm in the present moment, and I'm giving a time to myself. So again, think about what are these moments that brings you truly in a flow. Write it down, and then think, what can you do to have more of it? Or what else can you do that brings you in a flow? You know, we know that artists, when they create art, right? If you are one of them, you know what flow means. You know what means engagement. You don't think of how much am I going to sell this piece for, right? That's not the first thing that comes to mind. You are creating art, right? You are in the moment to be your best self, to produce the best piece of art. Or it doesn't have to be the best piece of art. It could be just, you could just have a fun, right? And draw. You don't need to be artist. And that will bring you in a flow, if that's your cup of tea, as they would say. R is relationships. Did you know that relationships are the number one predictor of happiness? Number one predictor of happiness. Now, when we talk about relationships, people get confused, meaning that a lot of people think of relationships with your partner, right? With your husband, with your wife, with your partner, with your closest family. But when we talk about relationships, that includes everyone, from your closest friends and family, to your colleagues, to your boss, to your subordinates, even to the strangers. Strangers, yes, I said it. When you walk down the street and you meet someone, right? How do you connect? Does that relationship brings you happiness? I know it does bring to me. I just love being around people and love to connect. So relationships. What kind of relationships do you have? Now, I'm not talking about quantity, although it is really nice to have a big network, if you will, and relationships, good relationships with many people. But I'm also more important to talk about quality, quality of relationships. You could be 1 minute with someone, right? But that quality that brings you joy. Someone on the street that says, "Hi, good morning, Brad, so how are you?" Right? That's the relationships that brings me joy, even if it's a couple of seconds. So what can you do to possibly increase number of good relationships and to intensify quality, to make even better quality of your existing relationships? I do know that I have a lot of clients who really struggle with this. And if you are one of them, that might be your focus, because life success is more than just the money. It's more than just that great job and great career. It includes everything. And one of the most important things that does include is the relationships, people you spend most of the time with. Now we come to M, or meaning. Here's where a lot of people get confused. And maybe this is not really explained well, if you will. So, meaning. People always think of big meaning. Why am I here? right? And quite frankly, a lot of us don't have that answer, right? Some of us never get it. And some of us get it at the end kind of our life as we get really older, wiser, mature, right? And some, you lucky ones, get that in a very young age. And I'm so proud. I have so many students that they got it. They like, it's amazing in their 20s and, 20 years old, and they really already know what they want to do. And it's really, really amazing. But again, it doesn't matter where you are in that stage. Here's what's important. This is not only about why am I here. We're talking about the meaning of every single moment of our life. There is a meaning you can find in most everything that you do or don't do. So if you think about, is there a meaning? Oh, I got to take out the garbage. Oh, no. Yes, there is a meaning, right? You want to keep your house free of bacteria, clean, so that you and your family grew up in a nice environment, right? You want to maybe separate your garbage from recyclable so that things can be reused, and what cannot be reused will go on landfill. So there's a big meaning of helping not just yourself, but helping this beautiful planet that we're on, helping our generations, helping next generation, right? Washing the dishes. Of course, there's a meaning. We can't just you can not wash dishes, but what kind of life you're going to have? Going to work, there is a meaning. We are meant to create, to produce something. So anyway, think about what do you do that kind of brings you more meaning into your life. What else can you do? So let's write down things that you believe have a meaning for you, that are truly meaningful. And then what else can you do? For me, it's this. It is bringing the science of happiness, science of positive psychology to the street, if you will. That is my meaning. Right now, this is what I'm doing. It's a big meaning, right? It is helping you so that you can help other people. There's a big meaning behind that, right? So you need to find out what your meaning is, and what can you do even more of it to bring you more meaning, if you will. And now we're coming to A, which is achievement. This is a big one too. This is actually, fortunately or unfortunately, what most of us are focused on. If you think about goals and achieving, right, in life. And people, when they think of achievement, did I get my high school diploma? Did I get my college degree? Did I get my job? Did I get married and bought a house? And people think of these external things of achievement, but there's a lot more to think about achievement. And if you think about, just the goals and achieving something in life, as I said earlier, we are truly meant to achieve something. There was so much research that showed that they had a group of people who basically paid to sit down and do nothing. And then they had another group of people who paid to do something. And after a while, this group said, please give me something to do. You don't have to pay me. You see, we are meant to create something. Yes, we need vacation. Yes, we can lay down on a couch and we need that time. Yes, we can watch TV. Yes, we can play golf, but we need to create something. Trust me, this is why a lot of people struggle when they retire, because they didn't prepare themselves. They didn't prepare. They think that they're always going to be achieving something. And yes, they can achieve a lot in retirement, but they don't know what to do. So you need to think about now of what did you achieve currently? What are you going to achieve? And more importantly, I want you to think about the journey. That's really what matters. And we'll talk about when we get to goals, the journey from point A to point B, right? That journey, some argue, is more important than the end result itself. The journey of achieving, going from point A to point B, for many argue, researchers, that that is more important than the end result. So I did mention assignments as we went through the PERMA, but I like to mention this again. So here's the assignment, and you can write it down. So what do you do that increases your positive emotions? That's number one for PERMA. What do you do that increases your positive emotions? Number two, what do you do that increases your engagement? Number three, what do you do that increases quality of your relationships? Please write these down. Number four, what do you do that brings you more meaning into your life? And number five, what do you do that increases sense of achievement? What do you do that increases sense of achievement? So this was a positive psychology model that we just discussed, PERMA. It was created by Dr. Martin Seligman from University of Pennsylvania. Just a little bit background, but what's really most important is that you go through this exercise, understand what really makes people happy and what helps them improve their overall well-being, and then answer these questions and think of what can you do to have more of it, more of P, E, R, M, and A. The next tool I like to talk about with you guys is gratitude. Here's the thing. So many people today tell us to be grateful. I know, starting from my grandparents, parents, sometimes your partners or friends. But what does it really mean? It's easier to say be grateful, right? But what does it really mean to be grateful? How can we practice this? And more importantly, what I like to say is that gratitude is not practice. It's a way of life. Gratitude is not a practice, it's a way of life. But I understand for some of us to get there, right? Yes, we do need to practice. And this is why I am going to introduce a couple of tools for gratitude so they can help you. They can help you become happier, improve your overall well-being, so that later on, you will be able to help other people and help your clients. There is so much research that shows that gratitude can really help us do that. Gratitude can help us become happier and improve our overall well-being. But how do we express that? There are so many different ways. There's a tool that we call 3 good things. And this is something that I started doing about 10 years ago. And it's really the simplest way one of the simplest way to express your gratitude. And, when I started doing this, actually, my wife and I started at the same time. This was when I studied science of positive psychology with Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar. And we did this not to create any results, but just to try. And anytime you try some of these tools, please don't have a goal. Here's my goal. If I do this, I'll be happier. No, don't do that. This will be hopefully happiness, or something else will be the side effect. So the way this tool, 3 good things, works is like this. My recommendation is you basically you do this before you go to sleep. So I had a little notepad that was sitting just like by my desk, by my nightstand. I also had a really good working pen. It wasn't this one, but it was a good working pen that will not die in the middle of my writing, because that was important for me. I was already in bed. I probably wouldn't get up to get another pen. And then I created had a very small space, basically to allow me to just write 3 things and not much more. So my writing space was basically divided day by day. So it would be something like, day 1, day 2, day 3. I had a 30-day challenge. Then I extended 45. Then I extended, and I was doing this for years. So if you do this, take a notepad, dedicate a small space, right? Just like this. To write these 3 good things that happened to you that day. Now, people say, I ran out of these 3 good things. It's just, I can't think of it. What else can I think of it? Well, guess what? There are so many great things, good things that happen to us from the time we wake up to the time we go to sleep. If you think about it, you wake up. Hey, here's the first good thing, isn't it? You're up, your heart is beating, you're breathing. What else you want from that moment, right? You are able to walk, you hopefully, for some of us, lucky ones, right? Able to walk, able to get out of bed without somebody's help, able to get to the shower, able to take a shower, right? Able to feel that water hitting you, able to walk, able to dress yourself, right? These are the daily things that we don't think about it. And most of us are not grateful for these things until something happens in our life. So when something happens in our life, then we go, oh my God. Think about, unfortunately, what's happening today. Currently, we are still under COVID-19 crisis. I was talking to a friend the other day who had the COVID actually for the second time, unfortunately. Good thing he's okay. This is a younger individual. And he said, so he lost sense of taste, right? He couldn't taste anything. He said he would have a coffee and it would taste just like water. And he was worried that this will be for the rest of his life. Although a lot of research shows that that's temporarily. However, he said first time when he tasted coffee, nobody was happier than him, right? So that's what I'm talking about. Be grateful for the little things, little that we call them today. And just write down, I'm grateful for boom, boom, boom. This is the shortest 3 good thing exercise. There is a longer one, but for now, I just wanted you to know this short 3 good things exercise. Again, you can do this right before you go to sleep. Why do I do it that way? Because it will put me in a good mood. It will put me, I will think about good things rather than all the bad things that do happen throughout the day, right? Honestly, they do. There's no question about it. And what do we think when we go to bed? That's what we usually think about. All the bad things that happen, all the bad things that could happen next day, right? So this guarantee will put you, if not in great, then in a better mood, The other exercise, the gratitude exercise that I recommend to my clients is the gratitude ladder. Now, what's the gratitude ladder? Well, think about a person who you're truly grateful for. It could be your teacher, it could be your parent, it could be your uncle, it could be your partner, your wife, your husband, think about that you're truly grateful for. And then sit down and write in as many details as possible why you are grateful to this person. Write down not only why you're grateful, but give it details. Put yourself back into that moment, into moments, so that you can show your gratitude to that person. Just sit down by yourself and write that letter. The next step I recommend is that you take that letter, meet with the person. Again, currently we're going through COVID, so if you cannot meet it, there's a Zoom, there's a Skype, there's a FaceTime, there's so many things, right? And read out that letter to the person. You may be thinking, so what? And I'm just going to ask you to try, and you will know the answer to so what. It is truly amazing. I remember, again, going back 10 years ago, when I wrote the letter to my wife. And I took my time. I was thinking all the things, well, all, right? But the most important things that I'm truly grateful for from little moments, when we were making homemade, it's called Ivar, which is roasted pepper spread back home. To bigger things when we're deciding how to buy a home and so on. So when you read that letter, I guarantee you will bring all the emotions and the good, positive emotions to both of you, especially to person that you're reading a letter to. So again, just these two quick exercises on gratitude will help you improve your overall well-being, increase your happiness, and you really sense of life, and show to other people as well how grateful you are for their support, for their help, for having them in your life. So now that we covered gratitude, let's move into the next tool. Bum, bum, bum. And the next tool we're going to cover is habits. Now, some of you know that habits are really my biggest topic of research that I've been doing for years on connection between habits, happiness, and success. There is so much to talk about habits, just like with any other topic. But right now, we're not going to go into any theory of habits. We just want you to know that once you create a habit, you basically create a neural pathway in your brain, right? The physical structure of your brain changes. And that what's important, you can never delete that pathway. You can never delete that. Now, what you can do is you can replace your existing habit with a new habit, and or you can decrease intensity, if you will, of that habit. When I said decrease intensity, let's say you are used to, watching the news for 2 hours a day in the morning, and now you're basically trying to cut it down to 10, 15 minutes, right? But that watching the news or replacing it with, writing or something else, that neural pathway will always be there. So this is what I would like you to think about it. Think about from the time you wake up to time to go to sleep. What habits do you have? Often we don't think about this. The habits, we just do things, or we feel, or we, right? So what habits do you have? What do you do first thing in the morning? What do you do first thing in the morning? Do you snooze that alarm? We don't have these old alarms anymore like we used to, but you can snooze it on the phone. Do you just get up? Do you go exercise? Do you brush your teeth? Do you have a coffee? What do you do first thing in the morning? Then, what do you eat for breakfast? What do you eat for breakfast? You probably have your standard breakfast that you often, what do you eat? What time you leave for work? Maybe these days you don't go to work. Maybe you working from your home office, but you still start, right? What time? If you work from home, what does your day look like? Do you do like what I do, lock myself in the office from early morning? And then 1 o'clock? 1 o'clock is my lunchtime. Some of you already know that. And I'll have a lunch. I'll go downstairs, sit down with my wife, 30 minutes, and I'll come back. And I'll finish my day around 6 o'clock. Or do you just wander around and can't focus? What do you do? What do you do right before dinner? What do you do immediately after dinner? Do you have a cookie? Do you have a cake? Do you watch TV? If you watch TV, do you have some snacks and peanuts? So think about all these habits. And you can actually ask yourself questions, just like the questions that I just gave. You can ask yourself questions, right? And then you answer them. And then create that little chart that will show you what you do, right? So, and then I would like you to do this. I would like you to do something like this. First, I'd like you to write down that habit. So habit name, what is it? I disappeared, here I am back. What is it that you do? Is the habit name, right? I would like you to write down day and time. I disappeared again, but I'm back. So habit name, date and time, and write a description. So habit name, what's the habit name? Maybe it's, having peanuts. What's the day and time? Well, usually around 9 p.m. every day. What's the description? Well, I watch TV and I have a peanuts right on my, a little table in front of me and I eat peanuts. And then you lay down all these habits. The next thing I want you to do is take all these habits that you have. You have the habit name, and then you decide you want to keep it, yes or no. Simple, right? So you have a habit. If your habit is, hey, I wake up 5 a.m. first, and then I do exercise. You want to keep it? Of course. Or, as I said, I watch peanuts. I eat peanuts every day, every night. After 9 p.m. I watch TV and I eat peanuts. Do you want to keep that habit? It's up to you. I suggest maybe cut it down or replace it with something else. How does replacement work? Let's quickly go over that. Replacement. We need a new marker. I'll get it in a second. Replacement habit. Here's how it works. Let's say you are eating the peanuts at nighttime. And again, it's going to be tough just to like stop. Nike, just do it or don't do it. It's hard. So what I suggest you do is you do the replacement habit, as I call it. So what you do is on the same spot where you keep peanuts, put some healthy food. Maybe it's a fruit. Maybe it's some, smaller fruit. I don't know, plums, something that's healthy. And maybe it's not that, it's not the watermelon. I don't think that would work for replacement for peanuts. But seriously, so put some fruit on the same spot. Move the peanuts away, please. Put them somewhere far away from you if you don't want to throw them away. You don't. I know you spend all the money on peanuts. You have so much peanuts. Seriously, jokes aside. So whatever that is you want to replace, now you put healthier, what's the word? Replacement. So you basically now you're putting a little fruit on that table. And now you're doing the same thing. You're watching a TV, you're going to eat something, and just pop in some little fruit. Something that's healthy rather than something that's not as healthy if you have a lot. So that is how a replacement habit works. I would like you now to think of 2 habits. You're going to pick 2 habits from the list that you created. And think of a habit that you can begin implementing today. What can you either implement, like create new habits, and or what can you replace with another habit? So we're talking, what can you implement, right? So let's do the new habit, brand new habit, and let's do the replacement habit. So, and the new habit can be basically same as replacement habit, right? So we're just changing. I didn't go into all the details about habit loop and trigger and routine and reward. Basically, every habit will start with trigger. There's something that triggers you. In this case, we talk about peanuts. The chances are turning on the TV is the trigger, right? We have a TV, watch the movie, we got the peanuts. So that's the trigger, right? The trigger was that TV time. Routine is we eat these peanuts, and the reward is, hey, we feel good, right? We feel good. So what we want to do in this case of replacement, we have a same trigger. We're going to go watch TV, right? We will have basically same routine. We'll eat something. We'll just eat fruit instead of peanuts. And then the reward will be also will feel good. Maybe not as good when you just start doing that, but the chances are, again, that habit loop, trigger, routine, reward is always the same. One more thing, I like you to always watch for the trigger. If you do something that's great, it's good to know trigger, but most importantly, if you find a habit that is not good for you, but you know you've been doing this routine constantly, I'd like you to find the trigger. What does trigger you to do this habit? Let me tell you one example of my trigger, of the habit and the trigger. So I have been doing for many years my gratitude in a shower. I know it's crazy, but I go in the shower and I start yelling, I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful my son is over. He came to see us. One day, actually, yeah, he did come with his wife. And he said to my wife, to his mom, he said, is that okay? Why is he yelling and screaming in the shower? So that was one of my gratitude exercise. And you can try that too. But what happens is I would go into the shower, I would look at the yellow wall. That's what I had in front of me. And that yellow color, yellow wall would trigger me to do my gratitude exercise. We went on a vacation. And I realized after like 2 or 3 days that I didn't do my gratitude exercise in the morning. I was like, what happened? I've been doing this for such a long time. Here's what happened. There was no yellow wall in front of me because that was the trigger. So what did I do? Here's what I did. I changed the trigger. Instead of yellow wall, I purposely made so the trigger will be when the water starts hitting my body. You know, the shower, the water starts hitting my body. That's the trigger now for me to start my gratitude exercise. And guess what? Ever since I introduced that trigger, you can't miss it anymore. Anywhere I take a shower, the water hits my body, bingo, here's the trigger. So think about the trigger and think about if you can replace it, if you can change the trigger, if you have a good exercise, right? If you have a good routine, if it's something that's good and healthy for you, like in this case, something that you want to keep, like in this case, my gratitude. And if it's something you don't want to keep, right? Again, think of trigger. What triggers you? You know, maybe you have a cookie right after dinner or cake. The end of the dinner may be trigger for you to have a cookie or cake. So what can you do? The trigger is probably going to be the same. At the end of the dinner, you need to do something. But what if you now replace that cookie again with a piece of fruit? And I'm bringing the fruit again. I don't know why. You can have something else. But seriously, so you keep that trigger because it's going to happen. At the end of the dinner, here's a trigger, but just replace that. Instead of having a cake, let me try to have a piece of fruit. And in that case, that piece of fruit needs to be accessible and ideally maybe even on the same spot where the cake is. I know this is difficult. If the cake is in the fridge, maybe that piece of fruit should be outside. And if you do want to eat something more of it, like fruit, seriously, instead of keeping it in the fridge, which is so, it's so convenient. You just open the fridge. Well, guess what? What if you keep it like we do now on the kitchen table or wherever it is that you pass by all the time? Now it's so convenient. So now after dinner at nighttime, if I am hungry, right, it's just so easy for me. The fruit is just saying, eat me, eat me. It's right there. So I don't need to look for anything else. So that will be all about habits. And let's move to the next tool. So next thing we're going to discuss, and that will be number, is it 4? Let's find out. Yep, that will be number 4. So number 4, the tool number 4 we're going to discuss is mindfulness. And yes, I got the new pen or marker. Okay. Mindfulness. Oh my God. Everybody tells us these days, be mindful, from our parents to bosses to colleagues to TV producers to, in many movies. But what does it really mean to be mindful? Who introduced this mindfulness thing to the West, and what's the definition? So let's think about, who kind of brought the mindfulness? And so many people may be claiming it. I believe, Dr. John Kabat-Zinn really was one of the key people who brought mindfulness here in the West. Dr. Ellen Langer, certainly, who some of us call mother of mindfulness. But what is mindfulness? It is being in the present moment on purpose and not judging it. that's my favorite definition. And again, comes from Dr. John Kabat-Zinn. Being in the present moment, on purpose, and not judging it. So what can we do to be more in the present moment? But it's also on purpose, and it's also not judging it. So there are so many things that we can do to practice mindfulness and then make it a way of living, if you will. You will hear a lot about mindful eating. There are so many places, right, where you can actually go and just practice this, or guess what? You don't need to go anywhere. All you need is a place, home, wherever you are, and little food. And that little food could be a raisin, just one piece of raisin, piece of chocolate, dark chocolate, which is what I practice a lot. It could be your breakfast time, your dinner time, something that you want to be in a quiet space. You would like to, be in a quiet place. If it's by yourself, it's much easier. If you want to practice with your partner or somebody who lives with you, then you may want to ask them to do it with you and or tell them what you're doing so they don't bother you. But basically, you would just, as you take the piece of food, and again, you'll find out eating raisin mindfully as an exercise, but just whatever you eat. Before you just put it in your mouth, just think about it, look at it, smell it. This is I always think of wine tasting, because that's what I, as a certified sommelier, used to teach, and just really enjoy tasting itself. So not drinking, which would be eating, just to have the food, right? But the tasting, right? Tasting itself. So you would, particularly with the wine, right? You would, swirl the little bit of wine, you would smell it, you would sip a little bit, you would goggle it, you would taste it, you would see what's going on, how does it feel in here? So all these things, right? With a piece of food, you would look at it. Seriously, think about it. Where did it come from? Think about just for one piece of fruit, let's say, to end up at your table. How many hands, how many people were involved? All the way from farmer who farmed it to his family or people who helped him, pick it up, all the things that he did between, to water it, to give it food, to, now bring it on a truck and bring it to somewhere, to the warehouse. And from there, take it to the supermarket with another truck, and somebody puts it on a shelf, and you take it to cashier. I mean, all these things, there's so much happening before that piece of food, or fruit, ends up in your mouth. And then, after you smell it, think about it, just slowly put it in your mouth and enjoy, enjoy the taste, enjoy, hopefully, again, we're talking about COVID-19 and some people losing that smell of, taste, sense of smell rather. So just enjoy it slowly, one bite at a time, right? I mean, that's really the idea of being in the present moment on purpose and not judging that mindful moment. If you think about breathing, we all know how to breathe. Yeah, I'm breathing now. So are you, if you're watching this, or even if you don't. But do we know how truly to breathe, to focus on the breathing? Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Right? So you can try just to, as you breathe in, you can count 1, 2, 1, 2. We can just say in, out. Apple, I am sure, did so much research to figure out, to put that breathe thing on their watch to remind us to breathe. Think about how important that is then for us. They wouldn't put it in. They're not the only one, but I'm just saying, they introducing all this happiness, well-being tools that are well researched, introducing them into the product so we can easily be reminded. Okay, a little water. Okay. How about driving? We should all be in the present moment on purpose and without judging it. But most of us are not, especially that part not judging. Somebody cuts you off, you get upset, you give a kiss. Some people, right? So mindful driving is truly an amazing thing to do. Not only that it's safe, right? But it is a way for you to be mindful. It is a safe way for you to be mindful, to pay attention to the road, to signals, to, cars behind you, in front of you, side. So this is really a time that you can practice mindfulness without looking for any special time. So how about the phone rings, right? We all have these things these days, unfortunately. Used to be like one phone in the house and, hey, did you hear somebody? I was just calling. Oh, I couldn't hear it. But now we all have all these phones. And what do? Well, we just gotta jump on it and pick up a call immediately. Don't do that. Here's a time for you to be mindful. Look at it. There's no reason to jump immediately. Pay attention. If you know who's calling, think about that person for a second. Hopefully if you do want to pick up, you'll be mindful just enough time so you can still answer the phone. But seriously, think about that person. If you don't know who's calling, maybe you don't want to pick up, but maybe you want to think about it again, of that phone call, So again, so many different ways to practice mindfulness. All of us, most of us, right, go shopping. Some of you lucky ones that are so rich, you don't go shopping yourself. You have people do it for you. But I can't afford it. I have to go shopping. So when you go shopping, seriously, and what do? You stand in line, the line is long, and you get upset. Is that what you do? You get upset. Well, you could do that, or you can practice mindfulness. You can be in the present moment on purpose, because silly purpose, and without judging it. It will bring you more joy. It will bring you more happiness rather than anger. And that, my friend, will help you a lot. Here's another exercise. So we talked about eating, breathing, about driving. What else? Telephone meditation. If I don't spell something right, please forgive me. I'm not a great speller. Supermarket, shopping. Here's the next one. My favorite. My favorite is walking meditation. And I truly do this often if I just walk around the neighborhood, if I walk around the building where I work, And I want to share something with you, the exercise that I did with one of my clients. So I asked workshop participants, there are about 30 people in the room, that the next thing we're going to do, I told them, is we're going to slowly leave the building. We will not talk. We will spend 3 to 5 minutes outside, and we will just walk around the property. You're free to walk any way you want, or just walk around, and then slowly you can follow me as we come back to our workshop room. Again, it's a quiet time, no talking, no discussion. We'll discuss when we come back to the room. Many people worked in this particular office for more than 20 years. So think about it, 5 days a week, sometimes 6 or 7, it's technology department, every day for 20 years. You will not believe how many things they noticed that they haven't noticed before. Because I asked them to walk around and just look and notice things around you. Whatever you see, notice it. Just remember, when you come back, we'll talk about it. So people were talking about trees, birds. There was a sign. There was a guest parking only. There were so many things that they've never noticed before. How did this happen? How is it possible that for 20 years, they walked the same path, and now in a couple of minutes, they noticed more things than they have noticed in the past 20 years? Because now I asked them to do that. I asked them to be mindful. I asked them to do walking meditation. Walking meditation. Now, often, if you go to one of these places that, like Kripalu Yoga that we have here in the US, which I really love, not associated with them, I'm not selling anything. But if you go to one of these retreat places, they will probably do walking meditation a little bit differently. You might walk in a line, right? You might walk outside, but like I said, outside is my really favorite. I'll just walk around the neighborhood and I'll just pay attention to the sounds, to birds, to trees. I will just look around and find new things, there's a new sign, and so on. So walking meditation is an exercise that all of us, again, lucky ones that, some of us lucky ones that can walk, right? That we can practice anywhere, and you can even practice it at home. I mean, if I look around my office, every day I see new things. And sometimes you do see things that you don't want to see, which means you got to clean it up, which is a good thing, I guess, the side effect of meditation and mindfulness. But here's the one thing I want to end this mindfulness, number 4, tools. And it's this that came to me about 8 years ago. Because people would ask me, and they would say, well, I'm going to meditate, or I'm going to practice mindfulness because I'll have less stress. And my answer is this: you don't meditate to have less stress. You have less stress because you meditate. Let me repeat that. You do not meditate to have less stress. You have less stress because you meditate or because you are mindful. It's a side effect. So please, again, if you practice this, don't have a goal. Oh, I'm going to be mindful and I'll have less stress. No. Hopefully, the less stress will be a side effect. Less stress will be a side effect. And we talk about mindfulness, particularly here we didn't cover meditation, right? But all of these forms of mindfulness are kind of meditation. We can meditate and or be mindful while washing the dishes, right? While doing, let's put that on. This was actually a favorite one for one of my clients in the same workshop that I'm referring to now. We had a participant who basically talked about how, I was talking about washing dishes, and he made a commitment, and he's still doing it years later. Made a commitment that he will help his wife and wash dishes and be mindful. So washing the dishes. So anything we can do, we can be in the present moment. Cooking, big one. Can you see this cooking? Not really, but yeah, I was cooking. So cooking is big one. I love, that's one of my favorite too lately. I learn how to cook. And as I cook, I'm truly in the present moment on purpose and without judging it. There's no judgment. However it comes out, you don't think about what's going to come out. It's about that present moment while you're cooking. All right, so let's move to the next one. So the next thing we're going to be talking about is strength. Now, as you may or may not know, positive psychology is all about what's good with us rather than what's wrong with us. What's good with our organization rather than what's wrong with our organization. What's good with our business rather than what's wrong. What's good with our kids rather than what's wrong, and so on. So we are focusing on the good. That doesn't mean we are going to ignore the things we are not good at. No, it does not. But what it means is we want to give a focus on what we're good at so that if we do that, it will help us become better at the things that we are not so great. So what I'm going to, I have to get a pen or marker, recommend to you now is to do a quick exercise and go to the website viacharacter.org. Let me write it down. I hope I spelled it right. viacharacter.org. And on this website, you will find out how to get your strength, how to get your character strength. Just a disclosure, I am not, actually there's no reason for disclosure. I'm not associated with the website and not selling anything. This website was created, actually started with Dr. Martin Seligman from UPenn. And it's really a great tool. Again, just use the free one. You don't have to pay for it. It's a really great way to find out our strength. That's all I'm going to tell you. When you go on the website, you will read a lot more. But I would like you to go there and find out what you're really good at. Unless something changed, you will get a list of 24 character strengths. They will be in the order from 1 to 24. They'll explain to you each character strength based on your answers. I would also like you to, when you do this and you get your character strength, please do not focus on a bottom 5. It doesn't mean that you're really bad at. That's what usually people do. They go, well, I'm not bad at relationships, or, I'm a spiritual person. Why is this number 20? Because something has to be on the top, right? So it's just kind of in order of how you answered question today. I usually do this every 6 months, and basically the order changes. And why it changes? Because I also purposely work on my bottom 5 because I would like to move them up, right? So when you do this, you will want first to work on top 5 to use them even more. And then later on, you want to look at the bottom 5 and you want to move them up a little bit. Now that you have this character strength and you have a list of your 24 characters, and by the way, this is what I usually ask my coaching clients to do as well. So we'll be talking about this in the coaching module. Once you do that, we are going to do a quick exercise, but you will have to do this first. So you're welcome to listen to this, move on and or stop, get this thing, and then move on to the next exercise. I would used to say stop the tape, but there's no more tape, so you can pause it and do the vicarta.org, like I said, or you can listen to the next exercise. And let's see, where is it? I believe it is right here. So we are going to do life domain satisfaction exercise. I had to prep this, it's just easier than writing it down as I speak to you folks. So first we want you to look at your character strength survey, your character strength, right, that you did. And I want you to write down top three character strength that you have, regardless what they are. So we want to highlight top three. Then what we want to do is, in this case, we're giving an example, and you can certainly use something else. But example for the life domain satisfaction, we picked the three areas. We picked the income, and certainly if you are a student or retired, this may not be as applicable for you. Then we picked health, which I believe is applicable to all of us. And then we picked marriage or partnership or relationships. Some of us are not married, some of us have no partner, but we do have a relationship or relationships that we may want to focus on. Again, this is the example. Feel free to use this and or choose other areas of your life that you want to look at how you are doing based on your life domain satisfaction. And here's how rating is going to work. You're going to rate yourself from 1 through 7, where 1 will be very dissatisfied, 7 is totally satisfied, 6 is satisfied, 5 is slightly satisfied, 4 is neutral, so it's neither satisfied nor dissatisfied, 3 is slightly dissatisfied, and 2 is dissatisfied. And again, 1 is very dissatisfied. So we are going to look at this scale, and then we are going to rate each one of these 3 areas. That's the first thing we're going to do. We're going to rate from 1 to 7, right? Income, health, and marriage relationships. Once we rate that, we are going to look at our top 3 character strengths and see how can we use one of the strengths in order to improve either on income or health or marriage, partnership, relationships, or another area that you picked. Why? Because we know when we apply our strength that we can get better in any area of our life, right? So if we apply our strength, what are we really good at that can help us increase our income? So move it from 1, 2, 3 all the way to 7. What are our strengths that can help us increase our health, become healthier, right? So this is really, it's a great exercise. It will show you how you're doing today. How is your life domain satisfaction today? Again, based on these 3 that we picked, but you can pick any. And it will also give you an opportunity to figure out how to use your strength. And again, find out what your top 3 are, how to use them to improve something here. To give an example, sometimes we don't think how to use our strength and when they really applied. Some of us may or may not love our jobs, but we have to pay our bills. So what I used to do, and I love what I do, but again, this, this is my true calling, right? So I would come to the office very early in the morning. There would be like about 7:15 or so in the morning. So I would leave, take a train 6 o'clock, be in the office around 7:15, 7:20 in New York City. And I would get my coffee. And then first thing I would do is talk to people. You know, want to go to the pantry room, get a coffee. Hey, how you doing? Be genuinely interested in other people because I am. And that by itself, because I used my character strength, right, on the relationships, and that by itself will now help me to go through the day, even when it gets difficult, right? Because I'm already putting myself in a good mood, if you will. So figure out how you can use your character strength to improve, if necessary, one of these domain satisfactions. So there was a strength, and that was number 5, I believe. And now we need to move to next one. And let's see, where is the next one? It's hiding somewhere here, so we will find it. So we talked about character strength. And now we are moving to optimism. So let's talk about optimism, and then we'll cover something what I call grounded optimism. So we know that some of us simply have more optimistic genes than other people. I know I do, because my mom was truly, genuinely optimistic individual. And some of us have less. Regardless, we know that we can increase our optimism just by focusing on what I call grounded optimism. So let's see, what's the grounded optimism? Let me give you an example. You know, let me just share the story now that I think of grounded optimism. When I arrived in New York City, very first time many years ago, I came on a business trip. Thing happened in my country. There was a war and couldn't go back. So I walked on, this was the West Broadway, beautiful street, if you know New York City, all the galleries. And I'll never forget, there was a big sign. It says, "Don't worry, be happy." And that was kind of me, although in that difficult situation where I was dropped in the middle of New York, again, came on business trip and then couldn't go back. It again reminded me that, yeah, that works for me. Don't worry, be happy. However, for a lot of people, that does not work. How do I know? Well, I would used to say something like that to my wife, and she would be, "What do you mean, don't worry, be happy? You know, look at this, and that. And how are we going to get out of this trouble? How are we going to pay rent? How are we going to live here that we don't know English?" You know, all these things. And what I would then do after I learned about grounded optimism, instead of saying, "Don't worry, be happy," I would think of similar situation. Something similar that was as difficult that we found a solution. And then I would say, well, remember 10 years ago when we did this, when something like this happened, and I will give an example. Well, we took the actions. We did this, and this. And because of that, everything was okay back then. So now, if we take similar actions, I'm hoping that it might be okay this time as well. So let's think of, to give an example, let's think of, most of us took some kind of exams, elementary school, driving exam, anything, college. So think about two students taking the same exam in the same room at the same time. Two people. Everything else is the same, just people are different. And they both fail. So now everything is the same. The student number one says, well, this is terrible. I'm a failure. What am I even doing here in this college? My aunt was right. This isn't for me. and just what they do is they go the downward spiral. I should just leave. I'm never going to succeed. I'm never going to complete this college. Maybe the best thing for me is just to drop off from the school. The students, number B, the second student basically says, this is terrible. I failed the exam. It's really not good. But, I'm thinking last time I passed a very similar exam. It was probably more difficult than this one. I was thinking I studied really hard, much harder than this time. I didn't go out probably for like 5 days right before the exam. I just studied. I ate well. I exercised. I didn't go to bar like I did last night, and I just wasn't 100% focused on the exam. So if I do all of that next time, if I studied harder, focused more, don't drink night before. If I do all of this, the chances are I will pass. You see, same thing, absolutely same, all the conditions, two people see totally differently. One person sees as a life failure. The other person sees as a not good, it's a failure, right? But he or she looked at the grounded optimism, something that's based in the past. And if he or she does certain things that he or she did in the past, the chances are it will be okay next time. So really, really important when we talk about optimism, half glass, glass half empty, half full. And we look at the optimism. It's really important that we don't just say, well, this person is just more optimistic. Everything is okay for him or for her, and everything is fine. And well, instead of that, just look at the grounded optimism. When something difficult comes to your life, just try to find something similar. Look, we're going through this COVID-19, unfortunately, crisis still. And none of us in this generation went through something similar, thank God, right? But there were some really difficult situations that we can still compare. There was a time that we were not able to see our family. There was a time we were not able to go to work. Think about, myself. There was a time I haven't seen some of my family for years, right? So it's not the same, but it's a similar. And yet, if you go back, find a similar situation, look at the things that you did in order to solve that problem or to go through that crisis, if you will, that will help you also become more resilient, that we'll talk about as well. That will help you increase your optimism level and really become happier, healthier, and truly improve your overall well-being. So now that we covered grounded optimism, and after I have a little water, we're going to move to the next tool. So let's talk about resilience. So what is resilience? It's truly an ability to bounce back from a difficult situation, sometimes from trauma. Now, why is it that some people will bounce back quickly from real trauma, while other people will have such a difficult time when they have a little roadblock, if you will, on their way? When something little happens, it's a little maybe to us, or it's a little to these people who bounce back quickly from trauma, but for people who can't bounce back, it's not a little thing. So what do we really do? Are there ways to improve our resiliency? We need this now more than ever. If you think about it, right? Now that we're going through this COVID, and even if we're not, depending when you're listening, being resilient, being able to bounce back, it's such a key factor. It's really so important for our life because, look, that things will go bad. Hate to say this, and I hate to bring you this bad news, but in life, there are times when things don't go our way. There are times when we lose loved ones. There are times that we lose jobs. There are times that we don't have income we want, and so on, right? So things don't go always our way, and we need to be able to bounce back. We need to be able to get back on our feet as quickly as possible. What I'm going to do now is I will introduce you to 10 scientifically proven resiliency factors, and I'll cover them briefly. And then give me a second. I don't want to waste your time, so I will write them down here, and then I'll turn the camera on again. Okay, so I'm back, and let's talk about these 10 scientifically proven resiliency factors. The first one, grounded optimism, we already talked about it, right? So you see how this is important. It's basically number one, scientifically proven resiliency factor. What's the number two? Facing fear. Fear, if you think about it, is really all around us. Lion is not chasing us. If it is, then we better run. But otherwise, the best way to do it is to face it, to face the fear, not to try to avoid it. Think about police. Think about firefighters. What do they do every day? They face that fear every single day. And that's how they succeed, right? Athletes, although it's not, life-threatening, but there's a fear. Every time you go out to compete, there is a certain amount of fear that you really have to face it. So when it comes to fear, the best way to deal with it is to face it. Number three is moral compass. We all have our own moral compass. We all have things that we do that's really, our compass. And what you should really do is make sure whatever you do is to follow your moral compass. Otherwise, if you don't, right, it will really put you off the track. It will put you in a situation that you're not gonna like it. You're not gonna respect it. You will really drop your resiliency level. So make sure you follow your moral compass. Number four, spirituality and religion. Now, why do we say spirituality and religion? Here's why. Religious folks got it, right? There's no question about it. They know what it means to be resilient. They have their routines. They really understand it much better than non-religious people. But if you're not religious, then another way to deal with it is spirituality. Spirituality doesn't mean religious, right? It is spirituality is the things that we discussed earlier, from meditation to mindfulness to doing a yoga, being in the present moment, and being spiritual, right? Generally being spiritual. That certainly helps a lot. And resilient people are either spiritual mostly and or religious. Now, let's move to number 6. I was always thinking, I want to say I grew up in New York. I did not grow up in New York. I moved to New York when I came on a business trip from Bosnia, former Yugoslavia. But driving around New York and seeing some of the areas, back then, 20, 30 years ago, like really, really in bad shape, and seeing all the projects and seeing people that really have such a difficult life, I was always thinking, how is it that sometimes from these areas, you have people who are extremely successful, and yet many people are really not, right? End up on the street. How is it? How do these people become so successful? And I'll tell you how. I finally found the answer. It is because they have a role model. A role model may be grandma, it may be an aunt, it may be someone on the street, but they had a role model who helped them with the resiliency, who helped them overcome all that stuff, the bad things that they were going through in their life, and to succeed. So having a role model is extremely, extremely important. What's another one? Physical fitness. I mean, this is really the key to being good physical shape. And it doesn't mean that you have to be on treadmill or spin bike like I do every morning, but just move, dance, have some fun, right? Move around. Make sure that you are fit physically. This is really, really important. Resilience people, that's what they do. They certainly are exercising, they're moving a lot, they walk, right? They don't just sit home and they do nothing. So physical fitness is the key. And if you think of exercise, this is what, we would say it's a magic bullet. It helps with so many things, but certainly helps with the resilience. So let's look at the next one, brain fitness. I think if you are watching this, and you are, then you are certainly exercising your brain. And brain fitness, there are so many different ways that we can make our brain fit, if you will. But brain fitness is so important. So, from studying, from learning, from practicing, so many things that basically keeps our brain active, if you will, most of the day is really, really important. And it will also, by the way, you will also spend a lot of calories by doing that. So I learned that's pretty cool. You can just study and learn the calories instead of exercising. Just kidding, you need both. Now let's move to emotional flexibility. This is where a lot of people struggle, unfortunately. And, look, all the emotions are good. So we don't want to be happy all the time, but that's not how life works. We get sad, we get angry. Is anger good? Well, it depends, right? It depends. It depends what you do with it. It's not the anger itself, it's what you do with it. If you are, angry and you start breaking things, right? That's not good. If you're angry because of a certain situation in your country, political or economical or whatever it is, and your planet, and you're doing things to change that, it's a good thing. There would be no good change without anger. Think about it, right? People get angry and then they make a positive change. So as long as it's toward the positive, it's a good thing. But emotional flexibility is important. Being able to handle all the emotions. And again, like I said, it's what we do with emotions. It's not the emotion itself, because all emotions are natural and they're fine. It's what we do with it. And what's the last but not least? It is meaning and purpose. We talked about meaning earlier, right? It is finding a meaning in almost everything we do or don't do. That's really important. And it's finding that purpose and meaning in most things that we do in a daily life. So again, if you look at what the resilient people do, they practice grounded optimism. They face fear. They have their moral compass, right? They practice spirituality and or religion. They have social support. Looks like I missed it. Social support is one of the key factors of resiliency. Of course, it is here one of the key factors, but seriously, like having a social support and people around you who will help you and who you will help when they get into a difficult situation is the key, right? Having somebody you can talk to as a social support, be that friend, family, colleague, is a key to be resilient. Then we move into physical fitness, exercise, move a lot, right? Talk about brain fitness, which is what you're basically doing right now. emotional flexibility, being able to handle all the emotions, and just be aware of what we do with it, and meaning and purpose. Now that we covered resilience, we are going to move to the next one, and that's the number 8. Number 8 is goals. So once I have a little water, we're going to move to goals. Here's the thing with the goals. Everybody talks about goals, right? Every single self-help guru will talk about goals, how you need to set your goals, how you need to achieve them, what you need to do not to give up, all these things. Talk about SMART goals, which you probably heard of. But today we are going to look at the goals in a little bit different perspective. So again, why goals? Because we also talked in the PERMA, we have that achievement, right, which is goals. And we humans are, meant to achieve, meant to set certain goals and achieve them or not, which is fine too, right? But I want to talk about self-concordant goals, right? Self-concordant, the goals that are meaningful to us, the goals that are not set by society, by our friends, by our family, but the goals that are meaningful to us. And before I go into that, I actually want to share a story which I think will connect with many of you, and give you an idea of what you should do for yourself and also for other people in your family circle and friends when we talk about goals. There was an individual in my Dale Carnegie program many years ago. I used to be globally certified Dale Carnegie trainer and business coach. And, I kind of get goosebumps when I think about this story. So every week, the participants would come out and give a speech, 3 to 5 minutes, depending on the, area of the topic. And this individual came out and he gave his talk. So his talk he was talking about how he said, my mom is a doctor, my dad is a doctor, my grandparents are doctors, my aunts are doctors. So basically everybody in the family was a doctor. And naturally, they wanted him to become a doctor, right? So he did. After 7, 8 years, right? It takes to something like that in the US after your college to finally get your to become a doctor. So he did, and he started his own practice. But he wasn't happy. So one day he came home and he said, "Mom, Dad, I love you so much. I cannot tell you how grateful I am for everything that you did for me. I'm really sorry to say this. I quit." And everybody in the room was like, "What? Are you crazy? After they spend, hundreds of thousands of dollars and you put, so many years into this, you quit?" Yes, he did quit. He left the practice. I think this is a great example and good story for the rest of us to think about our own goals and who do we really follow. Do we set these self-concordant goals, something that will make us happy, something that we truly want, something that follow our meaning and purpose in life? Or do we try to achieve goals that are somebody else's goals? This is not the only example. You can see these examples everywhere. But unfortunately, parents will always push, not always, I shouldn't say this. Many parents will slightly push their kids toward the goals that they believe are the best for them to achieve. Now, this doesn't mean that, go ahead and let your kids do whatever they want to do, right? No, it does not. But it does mean that we need to if we have a kids, talk to them. We need to understand what they truly want to do. We don't want people to go to path and spend years of their life and then start from scratch just because we didn't understand them, or they wanted to follow our dreams and not their dreams. So that's really about self-concordant goals. Now, when it comes to goals, what's really important is we always think about achieving that goal, right? You set a goal, you achieve it. You set another goal, you achieve it, right? That's how we traditionally look at the goals. You set them and you achieve them, or you don't, but then you set different goals and you achieve it. But we need to look at, when we think of happiness, when we think of our own well-being, our own happiness, we have to look at the journey. What really matters is that journey from the time you set the goal to the time you achieve it. This is what is important. This is what truly matters. If you cannot enjoy this journey, who cares if you achieve the goal? Sorry to say this. I'll say it again. If you cannot enjoy this journey, think about if this is the right goal that you set. Now, I look back and I think about my goal many years ago. I still need a little more water. You know, talking is hard. When I set the goal to publish a book, and you know, if my goal was just that end goal, and if that's the thing that would, or if this was the only thing that would make me happy to, publish a book, then I would wait for years to be happy. But what I did is very purposely, I made this journey fun. I looked at what am I doing from the time I set that goal to the time I achieved. What can I do so that I can enjoy the journey? So I would call the friends to talk about the book. I would set the meetings to have fun. I would have a lunch with people, right, in my network. So I would do things that I know make me feel good, that are connected. I connected them with the end goal. But I enjoy the journey purposely enjoy the journey. Because if you don't, again, seriously, this is not, maybe the goal is so important that you have to get it and not enjoy it. Sometimes that does happen, but chances are there is a way that you can set it so that you can enjoy the journey. Because once we achieve the goal, what do we do then? Happiness stops. What do we do next? We set the next goal, right? Well, again, goal after goal after goal. Let's make sure we enjoy the journey. One more thing I want to mention briefly. There's something called Kaizen. And if you're in a business, you might have learned about Kaizen Approach and a process. It's the Japanese, I believe. Kai stands for good and Zen for change. What else? We're not going to do bad change. We want to do good change. But what Kaizen does is basically we apply it in my teaching on something which is the small wins, the small steps, so we can enjoy this journey by taking these small goals. But here's what Kaizen does in general. It focuses on process and result. So it's not only the end result, it focuses on process, which is basically this thing here. That's your journey. So this is where focus is on journey and the end result, right? It also focuses on big picture. So if you think about me publishing the book, what was the big picture? Why am I publishing the book? What can I then do later on with that book that will help me and help other people live a better life? And it's also non-judgmental. It's non-judgmental. Remember mindfulness, being in the present moment on purpose and not judging it? There we go. So when we set these goals, it's also non-judgmental. So keep that in mind. It might help you as you set your own goals. You don't have to know much about Kaizen, but what you do want to know or remember is this. Set a goal, look what the end result should be, and enjoy the journey, my friends. So I gave you 8 tools, 8 set of tools that you can use to help yourself, to truly improve your life. But now, what if you want to coach other people? You're going to use these tools to help you, but how is this going to help you with the coaching? Well, remember we said first, you have to apply these tools in your own life, right? And then we're going to move into the coaching. Now we need to understand that transformation process. You need to understand how do you coach your clients, and how are you going to use these tools to coach? And that, my friend, we are going to cover in the next video. So please make sure to watch for your emails. Make sure that you see your next email and to open it up so that you can see the next video. And in the next video, we are going to cover all the details on coaching. How are we going to use all these tools that we learned here to coach our clients, to help us with our own business, to help us create our own coaching business or training business, facilitation, and or to help us use these tools so that we can use them inside the organization as leaders, as managers, as teachers, as anybody who deals with people, and we all do. So watch my email for the next video. Till then, thanks, my friend. I hope you got a bunch of tools in your toolbox and you'll be able to improve your life. And that's what I want to see happen. And again, next video, we move into coaching.